My paternal great-grandfather, Morlai Cisse, was born in 1866 in Port Loko, Sierra Leone, to Baye and Adama Cisse. Due to his father Baye being a Temini warrior, he was trained from a young age to be a warrior and to be a strong man. With Morlai's family being Temini, they had high social prestige. The problem is, the British started to enforce its will upon its African colonies a little more during the Scramble for Africa period in 1876. The time period caused many Sierra Leoneans, like Morlai, to become depressed due to their fallen social status. Many turned to alcohol to fill their depression. Others turned to suicide. In response to this British insurgents, workers in the country decided to make trade unions, like the Carpenters' Defensive Union in 1885, with their main objectives being to increase their power in the workplace and to increase their overall wages. When they could not achieve this, they started riots to hurt the British in their pockets. These riots usually did not work and were shut down quickly, and people were imprisoned. But the main point of these riots is it caused fear in the British and showed that the Sierra Leoneans would fight back against unjust policies. Due to the strikes and riots, the British decided to enforce more and more strict laws. In 1895, they established a proctorate, which basically gave them full control of the country. This action would cause Temini warriors like Morlai to get together and cause a rebellion. This rebellion against the British was called the Hut Tax War. The Timinis eventually lost the war to the British, and many like Morlai were punished, and prisons like the one pictured became very full. Also, the British tightened their grip hold of the government at this point. This also hurt the Sierra Leone psyche because now they had no say, absolutely no say, in the rules and the policies that the British were making. What helped Morlai through this difficult time was the birth of his last child, who was his only son. Morlai and his wife knew they needed a son to pass their family line down. So the birth of his son in 1906 helped a little with his depression that he developed from his earlier prison stay after the Hut Tax War. The Sierra Leoneans and the British relations at this time remained hostile, but when World War I hits, the British and the Sierra Leoneans had to work together to fight against the common enemy. Many like Morlai helped with the war effort and were big factors in the Allied powers' victory. This also renewed confidence that they had lost ever since the British proctorate in 1895. After the war, self-democracy was a big idea, floating around in world politics. Sierra Leone nationalists seized on this, and groups like the National Congress of British West Africa demanded more political concessions be given to the people. These demands were somewhat granted by a new constitution being implemented in 1924, in which the people got to elect 3 out of the 22 positions in the government set up by the British during proctorate time. With these new political gains, people began to demand economic gains as well, especially among workers. One of the biggest strikes was the Railway Workers' Union strikes in 1926. The thing that made these strikes big were that people like Morlai, who was a merchant and not part of any union, joined the fight. This showed to be a big threat to the stability of the government, because it showed that the Sierra Leone people had made the government a common foe. These strikes and riots also kick-started the independence movement that would start soon after. The British, even through all the strikes and riots, did not listen much to the Sierra Leoneans' economic demands. This caused the relationship to become more hostile. To make matters worse, the Great Depression hit the British. This hurt many Sierra Leoneans like Morlai, who were merchants and needed the British to buy their goods. Without this revenue, Morlai's family had to live off rice akra, rice and water for years. This led to him drinking alcohol again. Due to this, Morlai died in 1936 because of alcohol-related issues in Freetown, Sierra Leone. Even though Morlai was not alive to see Sierra Leone gain its independence from the British in 1961, I hope he knows his efforts with many other proud Sierra Leoneans helped make it happen. And I want to say thank you for that.